And we are live. Welcome back to the RINO podcast. Happy Tuesday evening. It's a quiet snow evening. Snow will be falling in late January. The first week of the Donald Trump second term is complete. He was inaugurated indoors on a blustery Monday 1 week ago. And I gotta say, he's I won't say he's batting 1,000, but he's hitting like 900 from where I sit. Um, Executive orders, just a flurry of them. Everybody, all the right people are freaking out. Most people don't understand it. Stupid people don't understand how the price of eggs work. And all in all, not all in all, mostly, I'm going to say, bravo. There are some things we can get into that where I'm like, yeah, all right, we got to not do this.
Yeah.
But
There's little for me to be unhappy about.
yeah,
The immigration stuff, obviously, Jeff and I have talked about this a lot over the course of the last year, going from the presidential primaries into last summer and the issue of immigration. We talked about the last immigration bill and how insane Dems were about letting that high number of people in the border before the border shuts down. That was nuts.
mm-hmm.
And so he signed a lot of immigration EOs, and he's allowed ICE to go and do
Raids.
you can call them raids.
I'll
I
call them
mean,
raids. This is
their job.
yeah, this is the other thing. We have to be more blunt. And there is a hangover that has lasted at least 10 years of people on our side that are afraid to go because I noticed this especially in Massachusetts with a fair amount of people on our side. They're like, yes, get rid of those criminals, get rid of all the bad people. It's like, yeah, duh, that's first. It's like you tackle the order in which the problems of their severity. Okay, let's get the criminals out first. But then there's
And
also a
what
bunch of
was
people.
it here? Like on day two, they
Yeah.
they they targeted. I mean, they targeted Boston and the Boston areas first because we
Mm-hmm.
have sanctuary cities around here. And they went in and they were like, "We're coming to get you." Rapists, murderers,
Mm-hmm.
people with high numbers of felony counts that were allowed out of jail.
Correct.
They're gone. I don't feel sorry for them. I'm sorry, but if you come to this country illegally and then you break our laws, then you are getting deported.
Well, it's I'll here's the thing. That's the obvious one, and of course we agree on that. But there is this second level here, and if you talk to a fair amount of a fair amount, not all politically active people on our side, then they after those obvious ones kind of melt away, then it's like, well, they're gonna call us mean names if we deport the rest of them, aren't they? It's like you got to get over it, folks. You got to get over it because if you just allow, well, the non-criminals, the non-obvious criminals, we're gonna let them stay, right? No, they have to go too. They have to go
This
too. We're
is, I
spending
mean,
so
we're
much money just taking care of them. Yeah, this is why it's so important that legal immigration is the path forward for the immigrant population because they buy into our society. They understand the American values. They have a stake in it. People, the millions of people that just showed up and suddenly we paid for it. We paid for it. Our tax dollars paid for the Healey
I mean,
hotels. Our
In Massachusetts, our tax money
Yeah,
literally paid for it because we went from a surplus to a deficit after they increased taxes.
our
And
schools, our the catering companies that feed them, the hotels that have maxed out their room rates that we're paying for. We're paying for all of this, okay? And yes, look. By the way, all these people that are so sympathetic to all these individuals who would probably get deported or probably go back to their country of origin, I don't see you stepping up and opening the doors of your home to allow them in. You just sort of just don't. Just sort of
because
know.
you never would, because
Yeah.
the people that feel like that, we've talked on this podcast. I mean, large L liberalism is a privileged position, right?
Mm-hmm.
They never
Yeah.
have to deal with
Correct.
what they consider to be low class, low yeah, low class, working class issues.
Hmm.
And they don't have to ever deal with this, right? Like,
Remember
so like
when DeSantis,
they believe what?
well, when DeSantis sent the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, to Martha's Vineyard, they were off
And
that
they stayed for,
island in 48 hours. They were gone. There was a bunch of photo
yeah, they were
ops.
smiling and basically being like,
They were waving gently while their turquoise earrings flapped in the summer breeze, but they were waving
and trust
goodbye.
me, I have those turquoise earrings that that lady was wearing, but at the same time, like I actually talked to people.
Oh,
Um,
I'm
you
disappointed.
know,
Wait a
and
minute, but
I
time out, time out,
also
time out, time out, time out.
what?
The factual prep. Turquoise earrings.
Yeah, I have a few pairs that are just like studs. They're
Okay,
not like
not
liberal
not the
old, no, no,
dangly.
no. They're not like old women art, like old woman liberal artisanal jewelry, Jeff. You know what I'm talking about. The
That's
stuff
exact.
that
It
Heather
they
talked.
it when you see women wear those, they're straight out of Central Casting, and you know exactly what's they're going to talk about
No,
reproductive choice in 2 seconds. Come on.
I have like turquoise studs and they're like cute.
Okay,
No, I'm
but
not
those
gonna
don't
wear
count.
that bullshit.
Those don't count.
No,
All right, but
come on.
anyway, those were the
I,
people straight out
I
of
buy
Central Casting.
fine jewelry, not
Yeah.
shitty jewelry. Um,
Uh, but
anyway,
when DeSantis flew them there, they were gone in 48 hours. Done. It
yeah,
was
the Cape Cod. And
this is
now I
it.
think
The
what was
people.
the follow what was the but Jeff, what was the follow-up on that, right? So like they sent them to Cape Cod, and I think a few months later they actually reported where those people moved to. And where did they move to?
I think
Lawrence, Lynn,
Fall River.
and Revere,
Yeah.
Fall River.
Yep.
So they moved to some of the poorest areas in Massachusetts, and those were the biggest shifts to Donald Trump in the state because of Hispanic and
Oh, good point.
Latino
That's
voters.
a really good point. Yeah, that's where you saw it.
So,
Hmm.
I
Where you saw
mean,
it. Look, there was all over the. I can say when this was going on, and Maura Healey was said we're going to be a welcoming a state, and we're going to be welcoming in the Commonwealth, even though she supported driver's licenses for illegal aliens. She's made this while it's not technically on the books. There's plenty of clips of her saying we will welcome all of these individuals and we will find a way to make it work, and all the nonsense that she's backtracking now because it's coming up on election
what did
time
she
next
say
year.
last week? But what did she say last week, Jeff? What did Maura Healey backpedal on? What did she say?
She said she was going to fight the Trump immigration deportations and not comply right after the election. I know she said that, and you know what? Why don't you tell her what she did say last week, and I'll find the clip of her saying the opposite if I have time.
She basically said that she was going to comply with federal ICE raids and allow them to come into Boston and Massachusetts in order to round up all the criminals. Like she said, I think Wu actually was like, "No, we're not going to allow it." It's like, what are
Oh,
you gonna?
well, what do you know? God, I love Twitter X. Thank you, Elon Musk. You're the greatest. Okay, let's cue up what our good friend and Governor Maura Healey said. She's going to says November 11th, 2024, we'll continue to stand up who tries to. Oh wait, all right, sorry, I had the wrong one. Oh, here we no,
You
this is
said a
this is
lot
the
of
right one.
things.
This is the right one. Here we go.
Assist in mass deportations?
No, absolutely not. But, let me say this. I do think it's important that we all recognize that there's going to be a lot of pressure on states and state officials. And I can assure you, we're going to work really hard to deliver. Some realities also need to be, noted. And that is in 2016, we had a very different situation in the courts. And while I'm sure there may be litigation ahead, there's a lot of other ways that people are going to act and need to act for the sake of their states and their residents. There's regulatory authority and executive.
Residents, not citizens. Notice how she says that: residents, not citizens, and she's
Oh,
falsely categorizing the illegal immigrants that are here and all over the country as residents.
Powers and the like. There's legislation also within our states. So I think that the key here is that, every tool in the toolbox has got to be used to protect our citizens, to protect our residents, and protect our states, and certainly to hold the line on democracy and the rule of
I'm going to play this again real quick.
If the Trump administration requests it, would the Massachusetts State Police assist in mass deportations?
no.
There you go. No.
I just don't understand how you like can argue that you support the rule of law and democracy when like literally we have ICE and you had like most of Massachusetts, like all these cities voted to be a sanctuary, and you like are literally thwarting like federal law.
No. They just say words. They don't believe them. They don't.
No.
They just want to maintain power and import voters because their ideology is bankrupt.
Which is funny because the
bankrupt and
concept
failing.
of importing voters is like funny because, right? Like the concept of importing voters. Remember that book
Yeah.
that came out in the Bush years was like the emerging
Roy Teixeira.
Democratic
Yeah, Roy Teixeira.
super whatever. And he actually came out and was like, no shit, I was fucking wrong. Like it was
A funny thing.
interesting.
A funny thing happens when these people get here and they realize that, oh, wait a minute, no, it's really awesome if you live your life and act according to conservative principles and being Republican. Now we got a long
Well,
way to
it's
go to
like
get them
Southern
to-
Texas going straight R. Like it's, the people that live down there they're Tejano Mexicans technically, right? Like they're like their culture down on like the Texas border is actually Mexican because essentially when we won the American Mexican War, the border just shifted right down, and so like technically the southern part of Texas is full of Hispanics, Mexican, Spanish speaking people, and they have their own culture down there, and they vote Republican now, guys. Like this, they are hard red.
What do you think of? I'm going to say this right now because it's coming up. So move on from immigration. Oh, well, actually, no. You had a really good point. Maybe I'll clip it. So Trump he's done a lot in the first week, and there's a fair amount to discuss.
A lot.
I am. Should we tell? You know what? If you want to hear Caitlin's thoughts on the Colombia and the Colombian president, go on over to patreon.com/RINOpod. Pay $1 a month, you cheapskates. $1 a month.
Yeah, I don't
and check
appreciate
out-
the president of Colombia going on like a deranged rant on Twitter, basically wishing a race war on the United States because we sent back illegal immigrants who were rapists and murderers in chains on a military plane. Dude, again, I will say it one more time. Has everyone forgotten who the superpower is?
Yeah. The audacity. The fucking audacity to be like,
You're gonna try to fuck with us?
Your citizens who are causing us problems and our criminals here, we're just sending them back, and you're like, nuh-uh, how dare you? Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself.
And to not expect like retribution. It's like, dude, no, like
Get out of here.
Donald Trump won the election. We're done playing nice. You are getting these criminals back. They are your people. We're done. Have you forgotten who the superpower is?
Yeah. Okay. RFK Jr. I fucking hate the Kennedys. I'm a Republican. I'm in Massachusetts. I don't like the fucking Kennedys. I don't like the family. I don't like their politics. I don't like this dynasty bullshit. This is America. One, he's a Democrat. He's a liberal Democrat. And yes, you nominated him for HSS as a payback for, you endorsing him. And I get it. And it's fine. But if I knew his nomination would be the one if there was any question. Like Hegseth was close, but he got through. If there's any nomination that is definitely at risk, it's RFK
I think the
Jr.
two that are at risk is Tulsi and RFK Jr. You're not going to miss me on the Kennedys. They cause havoc on Cape Cod, their entire family on that stupid compound. The way that the entitlement of their entire family just disgusts me. I think Caroline Kennedy is way overblown as a human being. I'll say it straightforwardly. Just because she has a Kennedy last name, she basically was propelled forward.
Yeah, they all were.
Along
They
with
all
a
were.
majority of their family. JFK3 was unimpressive. I remember when he came to Salem and had this big circle talk between all these people like with masks on, and he posted it all on Twitter, and it was just like weird.
For clarification, Joe Kennedy the third.
Yeah, Joe Kennedy 3.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I think that he's
do you?
a
But do you think?
weirdo.
I don't think he makes it through Senate confirmation.
I think it will be tight. I actually think that Tulsi is more likely to go down.
Really.
I think so. I
What
think
about that
that
labor secretary? Rand Paul's already coming out against her. I don't like her. Like there's three. I mean, well, I don't know the labor secretary
I
nominee.
don't really know much about her other than the fact that she's pro-union as a Republican. That's
Yeah,
the only thing that I don't
Randy
really know.
Weingartner is happy about this. So when that happens, my radar goes up. But look, Tulsi was a Democrat. I got no problem if she's goes down. RFK Jr. Democrat. No problem if they go
But
down. Like
Tulsi
done.
has weird defenders, right? Like, have you seen like Meghan McCain and Tulsi apparently are like best friends right now? And I'm like, how did you all
Tulsi's
become best friends?
Tulsi's an odd duck. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about
Tom
her.
Cotton came out in defense of her. I was like
Yeah.
shocked. Um, I think that RFK has, as the kids say, a lot of riz. He's got a lot of charisma, and so I think he might actually pull some Dems, and that's the reason why he gets confirmed.
Wow, that
Um,
I didn't think about that.
yeah, I think that he pulls some Dems. Actually, RFK's best friend is like Senator Whitehouse, and so
I mean, but he's at it. I mean, he's out of his
no,
fucking mind.
he says
Crazy.
his vaccine shit is like the craziest bullshit in the world.
Yeah.
Like, and he things that he is, which is crazy because again, like everyone knows that RFK like was almost chosen for like the EPA under Obama, right? Like everyone
Was he? I didn't know that.
there was he was almost picked by Obama to be something he would have to go through a Senate confirmation for.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I mean, Jeff, like Dem circles can get really weird. Like
this-
people talk about like Republican work circles getting
Yeah.
weird. Like, Dem circles can get really fucking weird. Like the anti-vax thing was very popular with Dems until it wasn't.
Yes, right. Until it flipped. Correct.
And I'm not
Okay.
saying that Republicans are automatically anti-vaccine because again, I think that being anti-vaccine is fucking weird. But like the Dem thing, like they all used to be super weird and questioning of vaccines.
Most of the polio outbreaks or the measles outbreaks in the country were centered around liberal college cities.
Yes.
Like parents they were having that problem.
Yeah.
In like Berkeley, California, there was like these outbreaks.
Yeah,
of
like
measles
I
and
mean,
that.
Berkeley, California. I'm sure that those kids are like covered in essential oils and wool, and their moms are definitely wearing weird white lady
Yeah.
liberal artisanal jewelry.
I can't. So there is the one executive order which I don't think will fly. Is the birthright citizenship one? Obviously, that's being pushed back on the courts.
I agree with that one. I agree with you.
Yeah, only because look, whether you like it or not, and I probably say not because I think when the amendment was put into place, the 14th Amendment, it's like it's very, 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 very clearly says anybody born here. Now, when they wrote that, I'm sure they didn't think of people from China doing birth tourism and showing up here and having their kid, or coming,
or the Russians down in Miami. Yes,
or you come over 8 months
when the
pregnant.
14th Amendment was written, it was obviously written because of the end of the Civil War.
Correct.
Because
but that's
they wrote the 13th Amendment, and then they had to do the 14th Amendment because basically Southern states were trying to imply that
Correct.
slaves could not be full citizens of the United States. It was the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment.
Those were the intent of it, but I think what we need to have is clarification, right? So the way you do it is not by executive order. You amend the law, you amend the Constitution, which I would be in favor of.
I think this one goes automatically to
for the.
This is a true constitution. I think this is a true constitutional question, and it's going to go straight to the Supreme Court. And I think that they're not going to agree with Donald Trump's EO.
No,
and I think
they won't. They'll say
portion of that EO is going to get slapped down.
Like the thing about the court where they've been consistent is they say, well, that's not what the law says. If you don't like what the law says, change the law.
Right.
That's it. So that's pretty straightforward. And here's by the way, we're not saying anything that's a newsflash to anybody who knows this. They know this. They're just pushing the limits and pushing it forward, which I get and is understandable. And it's worth at least doing to put it out there. Because a lot of this is done nefariously and taken advantage of, where people will take advantage of our laws to the detriment of us in that sense.
Like immigration laws all the time.
So
the reason why I wasn't really crying when that was it the CBP1 app was.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I loved it. Like, I love when I forget who was saying it, but the CPB1 app was designed to help facilitate the asylum people, and they interviewed Tom Homan, and he's like, well, they should go to a port of entry and apply for asylum. It's like, well, that was what the CPB1 app was for. It's like, no, that was to facilitate the false claims of asylum so that they could just get in the country and then legally stay here while they avoided their court appearance that was in 3 years. So not all that's going away. I mean, it's going away. It's going to change.
I think a lot of people didn't understand like this is what was going on when we had like such high numbers crossing the border. Again, Jeff, you and I are older, and we remember the Bush years, right? Like we remember the GWB years, and there would be like on CNN and Fox News the counters of the counters on like right where the cryon is, where it would be like the number of border crossings that happened, and it's like, excuse me, like how all of a sudden did we all automatically get like used to? I think what was the highest number in one day? It was like something insane, like 12,000 people.
Yeah.
Like going through the border of Texas, like that's fucking crazy. Over 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
That was never acceptable. Like when I was in high school, it was like the counter was like 75 people were found on the border of Texas, and that would be unacceptable.
So if we
Barack Obama voted for the Secure Fence Act of 2006 because we had people like the numbers were like 20.
Yeah. Look, this brings a lot of light to this past election that I will feel free to talk about here. The bipartisan border deal that didn't need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Trump got in, and he immediately secured the border in a day. And we had our
through executive order, Jeff.
But we had Maura Healey claiming that we needed bipartisan legislation. We had a Senate candidate, John Deaton, saying that the bipartisan legislation would have helped the crisis. This is the job of the executive. And I'm sorry, but because Elizabeth Warren was against it.
Super sold on Mr. Deaton's Senate campaign, and I was not enthusiastic. I'm not saying hand me, red me, but this is like not saying like that is not a sane position.
Correct.
And it is not even one of Massachusetts. Like, good Lord. We had the highest, we had the biggest shift to Donald Trump in our election, 8.8 points. And we couldn't how are we, why is the Republican nominee for Senate saying that we need to do the bipartisan? Like,
I'll
are you
why.
psycho? Like, what?
But I'll explain why, because this is very important, because this is coming up for next year for us. Okay. There is a school of thought by Republicans who call them consultants, call them advisors, call them whatever you will, but they tell candidates to be bipartisan for bipartisanship's sake. Let me just say this very clearly. They incorrectly think that they need to tack to the left on policy in order to win, call it Democrat votes in the state to win. Now, I say that incorrectly. You do not need to tack to the left on policy. You should tack to the center on temperament. That is the difference, okay? Because right now, what is gearing up, and what we are gearing up for next year, and the conversations are already happening. We've talked about this on the last episode, who the possible candidates are. I'm getting emails attacking Brian Shortsleeve for donating to Andrea Campbell. I'm like, all right, that's one I didn't see coming. But what people are falsely equating the past few elections, including Charlie Baker's, and misunderstanding what happened. So I'll probably repeat this in the coming months. In 2010, Charlie Baker lost for one reason and one reason only, not because he came off too angry, which is what the conventional thinking is of the people in this state for Massachusetts politics. Charlie Baker lost in 2010 because a guy named Tim Cahill ran as a third-party candidate. Okay, so those Tim Cahill voters who did not want to vote for Deval Patrick but voted for Tim Cahill and not Charlie Baker were gettable if Tim Cahill was not in that race, and Deval Patrick would have been a one-term governor. Okay, so the takeaway from that 2010 election was Charlie was too angry. So in 2014, Charlie had the good fortune of running against the worst candidate in Massachusetts political history, Martha Coakley, who had already lost to Scott Brown.
She was fucking terrible, Jeff. This was one of my first elections in Massachusetts that I actually remember, and she was terrible. I remember I was at work one day, and someone was trying to talk to me about her, and I was like, they were like, Kaitlin, you're from a hard red state. What do you think of Charlie Baker? And I was like, I think that he's a decent guy.
Yeah.
And then they were trying to talk about Martha Coakley, and I'm like, she's an annoying white liberal woman. How are we not on the same
so
page here?
Aloof and effete and all.
Right. Like I was like, what?
She was terrible.
This type of woman would have lost in Kentucky. Sorry.
Yeah, but she was Hillary Clinton for Massachusetts. Like just
Allison Lundergan Grimes lost to Mitch McConnell. Just throwing it out there.
So you had that situation.
What rhymes with Allison Lundergan Grimes? Federal finance campaign finance crimes. Biden, did you know that Biden pardoned her father?
No.
Sorry, this is Kentucky news. You all probably wouldn't know this, right? Because I'm from Kentucky. And I was actually talking about this with somebody the other day. Martha Coakley was like annoying. And again, this was one of my first elections, and Charlie Baker was just awesome during that campaign. I actually followed it. I was not involved in like young Republicans at all. My husband and I voted for him. And we were glad that he won because, that was like a new dawn of Republican politics in the state of Massachusetts.
Do you know how many votes he won by?
I don't remember.
This is 40,000.
Oh.
That's it.
That's all you need.
But 40,000 votes. But it was very, very, very close. And I want to say something else. There was a third-party candidate in the other direction, Evan Falchuk, who pulled votes.
Oh, I remember that.
Who pulled votes from the independent, jerk-off party or whatever it was that he created. And
there's lots of weird parties in Massachusetts.
That effort pulled votes from Martha Coakley. So that was 2014. But everybody coming out of 2014 was like, oh, well, he was just a really a nicer guy, and that's what made him win. I was like, it helped, I guess, but also he ran against one of the worst candidates in Massachusetts history, and there was another third-party candidate. So 2010 and 2014. Now, fast forward to 2018, Charlie Baker does a fantastic job, and he earns a decisive and demonstrative victory, crushing anybody that got in his way. And he proved why he would and is a good manager and was a good governor.
Oh, he was... You don't have to sell me on Charlie Baker.
Right.
I remember in 2018, I remember Mr. Kaitlin was actually like, I'm about to go watch the governor's debate. And I like the debate. And I'm like, wait, what? You're doing that independently? Like, you're not going to watch it with me. You're going to watch it on your computer. You're going to watch it alone. He watched the entire thing. He's like, I love Charlie Baker.
Yeah. He did a great job. But fast forward then to 2022, and we had arguably one of the worst candidates on our side, and Maura Healey got to run a basement campaign, and cruised to victory with
she's so awkward. She's like got no personality. It's like bizarre that she was able to have like a relationship with like a subordinate. Like she's so weird.
There's a lot of that.
She's bizarre and weird and awkward. Like I don't know. People don't see how awkward this woman is.
They're going to see it more in 2026. Now, the problem we have here is people think that they're learning all the wrong lessons from the past. Okay? Maura Healey will not be Martha Coakley. She is believe it or not, more likable than Martha Coakley and an incumbent. And she only needs about 40 or 50,000 votes to stay in office. And
That's true.
Whoever the Republican nominee is going to need, obviously, it's cliched, every single vote. But you got to be real careful about the campaign you're running and what policy positions you're taking, and incorrectly interpreting what policy positions versus temperament and the balance in between them are going to mean to the voters. Because if you think you got to run to the left and you got to get more Democrats to vote for you because you moved to the left, you'd be incorrect. You have to calmly, and you don't have to yell like you're on talk radio and get all angry and try to be, I don't know even what Jeff Deal was trying to be.
Something
Trump.
Something that you're not.
Yeah,
like the thing
you don't
is
have to
like
do that. Just
you don't
calmly.
have to. You have to have the right temperament. I think that again, Charlie Baker was able to. He has this gift. I have actually told people his ability to explain policy to people who might not understand what the policy is, and he does it in such a good like learning way where it doesn't make you feel stupid. He's so good at explaining what this is and how potentially local government or state government can fix it. And so I think that and he was so smart about that. He was always so smart about policy too.
And I
And
want
I
to.
think doing that in a calm, like moderate way is how you win. I think that in the past, like again, Jeff and I have ranted and raved about the picks for governor and Senate and like all of this. You don't need to go. First of all, you can't look like you're like a hardcore Trump cultist, but at the same time, you can stand on the policy that you believe in and still have temperamentally what will win in Massachusetts. And I think that Maura Healey does not have that temperament anymore. Again, she's bizarre and weird. You get weird vibes from her whenever you see her on TV or trying to do a funny meme. It doesn't sell,
Oh,
right?
it never works. It's so cringy. Dancing in her office and all that bullshit. Oh, God.
I don't want to see that. It's 2025. Like, I don't want to see that.
No, nobody wants to see that. Her staff, other than her staffers, who are,
I think her staffers are good at making sure that she does not look as awkward as she truly is on TV.
I don't know about
They
that.
are
Some
good
of
at
that, some of our,
and a lot of it creeps through.
I think we've done episodes where they say whoever told you to do that should get fired. But when we've seen some of that cringy shit, I think that the really what we have to learn for next year is that Charlie Baker was very firm, like no driver's licenses for illegal immigrants.
That's all that needs to be said.
Very open.
The thing is like he doesn't need to go into an explanation why he agrees with that. It's the common sense.
It's self-evident.
It's self-evident, right?
Self-evident.
There's no driver's license for illegal immigrants because there doesn't need an explanation. You're silly for even asking it.
The difference where I see, and I was watching, I saw a friend who was on somebody who had a decent social media following, who was on their show, and they had put together a parody song about the hotels, I guess they call it the Healey hotels, right? And they did a cringy parody song with Hotel California by the Eagles.
Oh, okay.
And it was fucking terrible. I got douche chills because it was so bad. Now there are candidates out there, the Jeff Deals of the world and the people who supported, who Jim Lyons would support, that look and think that's how because they chuckle like it's talk radio and they're going on Jeff Cooner. And they go, and it's not so funny, not realizing that it's as cringy as Maura Healey dancing in her office, just in the other direction. But you can calmly say, it's like, look, your job as governor is to protect this Commonwealth of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and its citizens, and we simply cannot afford to support in housing, in food, in education, millions upon millions of people entering the country illegally. So we're not going to do it. And we're not just, and this is the difference, and we're going to cooperate with the federal government if they are going to deport illegal immigrants. And you say it calmly and rationally like that, and everybody goes, yeah, okay, I'm voting for that guy or girl or gal. Sorry, excuse me. But You don't have to be angry about it. Now, but the incorrect misreading of the elections thinks you have to go, well, we say that. Just the criminals, just the criminals. Everybody else can say, Market Baskin can staff up. Dirty little secret. I mean, it's just the truth. Because there's some of them that go, oh, well, they'll think we're mean if we kick out the nice ones. You can't have
I
it,
mean,
this is it.
I
This
keep
is
on
it.
telling people, I'm like, you need to be prepared for mid-2000s deportations. And
Yeah.
if you didn't see them up here in Massachusetts, then you were truly shielded from the realities of the world. And I do think of Massachusetts in general has been shielded from some realities in the world, and they've had to learn over time, especially with these current deportations of criminals that are happening, that these realities are very real. Like the thing is that when you see an increase in spending on the Healey hotels and all of these services, that's very real because these people are moving here and they're illegal. And so are you going to spend on sanctuary city stuff or are they getting deported? Because you're not focusing on the endpoint, right? About how those people can potentially not be illegal. You're keeping them here and they're illegal and
Well,
again, this status changes with elections. And
it's
Trump won based off of his immigration rhetoric. Like that's the other problem about this is that Democrats do not understand. Trump won an election based on immigration policy alone, along with other things like the economy not feeling like it was great. And I don't know, foreign
what
policy that makes no fucking sense.
this is.
And that
Sorry.
Biden was not a great president. And Kamala had a crazy, wishy-washy, like, view of her entire policy history. Um, and
Let me let
so,
but let me tell you,
oh, go ahead.
this is important. This is important locally, and for this podcast, we don't have a wide audience, but we have a deep audience, meaning that the people who we want to watch this show, and the candidate that comes out and calmly says we are going to fully cooperate with federal authorities in immigration efforts to enforce the law is going to be the candidate that most likely gets my vote and support. And the ones that is wishy-washy about it, I'm kind of done. I'm gonna kind of call it out, because the problem you have, which they don't see, because again, it's always from a defensive position and a position of being scared. The problem that they don't understand is that if you just calmly say that you're going to fully support federal immigration and fully comply and all of those things, what you do is then you'll invite an attack from a liberal Dem and be like, well, then you support illegal immigration. And it's a perfect counterpunch when all you've come to do is basically start with a neutral position. And I fear that from the sort of the temperature I take out there is just there are a lot of people who are unwilling to just say, no, being here illegally is a slap in the face to every legal immigrant. And by the way, Elizabeth Warren was open about this on the Stephen Colbert show. Chuck Schumer's been open about it in press conferences. They want to give them amnesty. Elizabeth Warren is like, people want workers in Massachusetts. And the thing there is like, they don't just want workers. They want workers for cheaper pay. They want to undercut the prevailing wage. And again, screwing
As
over
I
the
said,
citizens of the
large L
Commonwealth.
liberalism is a
Yeah.
place of privilege because she can say that comment from her $1 million house in Cambridge, where she got a bunch of money, teaching like what, one or two classes from Harvard where her butt was wiped, into being a US senator where she accomplishes next to nothing because her greatest accomplishment is still technically unconstitutional. And it's so incredible she says things like this. Any of them say anything like
Yeah,
this.
I think
And
she's
large L liberalism is a place of privilege. They do not ever. When does Elizabeth Warren ever go into Lynn, Revere, Lawrence, Haverhill, any of these places, Fall River, out of the blue and on her own when it is not election time? Fucking never. Does
never.
she go to North Adam
No.
on her own in the Berkshires? No, she does not. The reason why she doesn't do that is because she doesn't have to deal with these problems in a real sense. She doesn't have to even see the problem in a real sense because in the store to problem, those people aren't living in Cambridge. Give me a fucking break. They would never afford the rent there. They're living in Lynn, Revere, Salem, Lawrence, Fall River,
Yeah.
these poorer areas. She does not have to see the issue. She does not even care about the issue truly, because if she did, she would be coming up with a real solution. And it would probably be a little bit more hardline than what she's letting on. Because again, who has a more hardline position than her? Fucking Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Because when you
And
are a
and his
socialist, you have to have immigration control in order to have those welfare systems
right
and
for
have
the
fiscally,
wages to take
quote
place. Yeah.
unquote, fiscally responsible,
Yeah.
or the wage
And he's over the
delusion.
year he's shut up about immigration, but back before he didn't shut up about immigration because the left has moved in this direction, he was very
I mean,
clear
those
about that.
immigrants are not moving to Vermont. Let's be real, Jeff. It
No,
is the widest state in the United States
but
besides Maine.
he knew they were coming, and they were cutting increasing the labor supply at a cheaper rate and undercutting wages for American workers. That's what is happening. That's what is happening. And look, please go on over to patreon.com /RINO plot, only $1 a month. We get into this about the economics of illegal immigration, some of the tariffs and stuff like that. So anyway, I think I'll wrap up with hashtags. Elon doesn't want hashtags.
No, he
How
thinks
am I
that.
supposed to from a technical perspective, if I want to follow a topic, it is very easy. Someone goes hashtag Super Bowl, hashtag World Series, whatever. And I go, okay, cool. So it's all together. It saves characters. It's clean. It's easy. I know other people who want to talk about it or follow it will type that in and search it as well. It's a pretty little bow on a topic that I want to cover. Like we hashtagged it in this show. Hashtag MA Poly, Mass Poly, Mappily, as some of the podcasts locally talk about it. Am I supposed to, if I want to follow Massachusetts politics or Boston politics, I'm going to type out Boston politics? No, because one, I get results for Boston, and I also get results for politics, and I don't like.
Oh my God, Jeff.
But I want the category of what we're talking about, so we can discuss. I want to hear what some of the communists say. Oh, by the way, I was at lunch with a good political friend. And a good
I
friend.
thought you were about to say I was at lunch with a good friend who's a commie or something like that.
No. But I
Like,
saw
oh,
a
okay.
commie. I saw a Twitter commie in real life, in IRL. I'm like, I was walking into the bathroom and he was taking a walk, and then I walked up to the urinal and he was walking away, and I don't think he recognized me, but I recognized him because it's like I couldn't. He makes these videos
Oh my
every morning
God.
talking about how the socialist paradise that he's about to usher in. But I
About
saw
as
that.
utopian as
Yeah.
true free trade.
So anyway,
Um,
when I was leaving, I saw him. But point being,
I have never run into any. Where were you? Because I don't run into commies anywhere.
a very popular restaurant near Beacon Hill, popular for Politico
Oh,
types. I'll say that.
yeah. Okay, now I
So,
know it.
so I met for lunch with a friend there. But anyway, hashtags are good. I'm not losing them. Like you can't just say they're ugly. That's his rationale. I mean, that maybe that's his autism talking, but they serve a function. They're very utilitarian. I like hashtags. And with that, hashtag Mappily. It's because we say mass poly, but it's not mass poly, but because there's no S's in there. Maybe we should add them. All right. I give Trump's first week grade an A. He's got an A from me so far. We'll see what next week brings. Maura Healey is in for more. I want to go get more into the mayor's races. Josh Kraft throws his hat in the ring, and we see what his campaign takes shape. But other than that, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, I give week one of Trump an A minus.
Ooh, Caitlin's a harsh grader. I'll give the A. You didn't get an A plus because of the birthright citizenship thing. That pulled it back. Well,
I say that he gets an A minus because the immigration stuff has been great so far, but the
okay.
January 6th pardons were meh.
Ah, that's a good point. I have more thoughts on that. but we're running out of time. But I'll stick with NA. All right.
We can talk about it next time.
All right. Until next time, we'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.